Hello, everybody. I'm here with Keiler Roberts, Evanston, Illinois' finest cartoonist. Although
It's not
don't
true. Evanston is a hotbed of cartoonists. We've
it
got
is, and
Emil
including
Ferris and
somebody
Lucy
that lives
Knisley.
with you, yeah, including somebody who lives with you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Scott, hi. We love you. We love you, Scott. Although he's like becoming a mad scientist, and I'm afraid that 3D Scott is going to kind of take over. And I warned him on Instagram today, like, really be careful with that stuff. You shouldn't fuss with things that man is not meant to fuss with. So, um, Keiler is the author of several books, of which I have here. This one, Miseryland, I think this is the first one that I read in its entirety, and I just loved it. Then that is followed by Sunburning. Can you see that? Sunburning. Chlorine Gardens. Yeah, they get a little easier to read. The covers that there we go, and then Rat Time, and now this new wonderful one, and this is from Drawn and Quarterly, and I think these might be looking backwards to the viewer, but it's really cool. Okay. I met Keiler first at Autoptic. That was the first time I ever met you. I was tabling with Kara Bean, and this was like, what was it, 2012, was it? Or
That sounds right.
yeah. And I remember asking you if you are an introvert or an extrovert. And lo and behold, later I reviewed your book Miseryland for TCJ, and I did, and you told me like, oh yeah, you're in that comic. That's you. And I'm like, oh my God, yeah, that's me and Kara. So we appeared in that. We were cameo in your comic, and which was a great thrill. Then I think we met again at the next Autoptic, and I interviewed you for Comics Workbook magazine or something.
Hmm.
Um, and then SPX. I think I saw you at SPX, and then Cake. And I tabled with Summer, and you guys are right there, and Eric Costick Williams is right there too, and it was really like so much fun. And we talked about having this workshop at your house, like an artist retreat, and it just never happened.
It
Why did
will
that never happen?
next summer.
Yeah.
Because of a bunch of stuff. But yeah, I
Stuff.
believe that's still going to happen. And at SPX, you helped us so much. We were taking the train, forever to get from Bethesda back to DC, and the train was absolutely packed, and none of the adults would stand up. We had Zia was like 4 or something, really little kid, and she was bouncing all over the place, and you were helping keeping her standing and not falling on the floor, and we were managing our luggage and everything else. That was my description to her this morning. Remember Rob? He's the one that saved you on the train.
Did she?
Yeah.
Did she really? Oh wow. She was really little, but
Yeah.
she was so cute. She was such a little mascot. We were all just kind of fawning over her. And like I remember eating with you guys at the Whole Foods. We would always go to Whole Foods and get like,
Mhm.
cheap, good food there,
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you actually enjoy doing shows? Do you in person and doing that? I'm really curious because I
No.
was not sure.
It's totally mixed. I mean, I don't even know if I enjoy anything. I do. I enjoy parts of many things, but things go wrong everywhere all the time. I can't get away from it. So I yeah, I have enjoyed parts of trips immensely. But every single trip I've ever taken, including the comics convention, there's definitely been like something that I'm trying to black out that I never want to think about again.
What I was wondering, do you, when you're having some sort of like bad experience or something really uncomfortable or awkward, do you sometimes mollify yourself saying, well, at least this is good grist for the mill. I could do a good comic with it. I mean, do you, or
No, especially since for my begging chart for sure, and maybe and rat time, um, anything that truly frustrates and upsets me and overwhelms me, I don't make comics about. I got much more intentional about my character and the life that I'm portraying as really it's a section of me, and all these other things I just experience, and I don't want to like pay more attention to it after I've gotten through it, you know. I'm in therapy, I pay that kind of attention to it, you know, but I don't want to relive it again and make something out of it. I really am trying to focus on like acceptance, which is what I want to do with all those moments, like ultimately. And part of my strategy for acceptance is to make things funny. Um, and maybe someday I'll be able to do that, like an actual anxiety attack, like a really bad experience, you know. I it's very hard for me to like laugh at those things, you know, and I feel like
Mhm.
I need to get at that to that point before I'd want to put it in a comic, because that's a
Mhm.
wonderful place to be, to have something that really was awful and to be able to sort of control it and look at it. And I've gotten to that place with like some things in my work for sure. Um, but anything that's like too fresh, you know, it's hard to have that tone, which I really want to have with my work. I don't want to think about something that's like brand new and still upsetting me. I got to really obsess about it for a long time first, process it that way. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, like you need distance from it, right? I mean, for
Yes.
me, it's like you just need that space to contextualize it and put it into some sort of form where you feel comfortable with it. It could be cathartic, or it could just be examining it.
Yeah.
Um, is autobiography? I mean, I don't know. Do you think you fall more on examining things or side of the question, or maybe more as a catharsis?
Um, I mean, I think I definitely, I think more examining things. I think making artwork of any kind can be cathartic, because your mind is doing something challenging. You know, it's usually like a longer amount of time where you're focused. Like people talk about like being in the zone as being just like a generally healthy thing. So if you're achieving that, whether you're taking a walk or having a meal and paying attention to it, or, you know, doing anything, learning something, reading a book, like in that way, drawing really is helpful. It really helps to like regulate me, you know, and a good conversation with somebody will do the same thing, you know. That's all cathartic. And it doesn't necessarily matter like what we talk about or what I'm drawing about. It's the act of talking, it's the act of thinking in a particular focused way that is really like helpful for me and keeping me healthy. um there is not, I think when people ask if like autobiocomics are cathartic, I think a lot of times what's meant by that question is like, did it help you get over this specific event, like a miscarriage? Was that writing about that part of the healing process? For me, it wasn't. It never has been. You know, like I had to heal completely separately
Yeah,
first, and then I was
yeah,
able to write about that, you know, because it was like you said, you had that distance. I was not like reliving any of the trauma of it. It was just I was able to look at it from, you know, you have to be sort of distance to be able to make art out of something, and not just be like opening a vein, you know,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
or picking at a scab or something. Because, and I think this is overlooked a lot of times in writing about comics, and especially autobiocomics, like the focus is often like so much on your life, you know, which obviously is part of the content and a huge part of the writing and is really important. But like I spend a huge amount of time thinking about the art, like the rhythm and a composition, the way lines flow together, the geometric shapes that are created, like, and my begging chart especially, like it's getting more and more into like composition and drawing and these scenes and spaces.
Yeah.
And I've always really loved paintings and drawings of people in a space, in a setting. And it's almost like it's like the bare bones of what fiction often is. It's a character in a setting where,
Mhm.
but but it's like nothing's actually happening yet. Like that's enough for me just to have like a person in space. So a lot of the time, like I'm getting more that way. There isn't necessarily like a drama happening, and I'm trying to kind of look at all the parts of life that we don't automatically try to record, or that don't necessarily have something to do with our identity or like whatever. Like everybody right now, not everybody. I mean, there's this tendency right now to look back at the pandemic and see it as like certainly was a very significant part of our lives. You know, like if you were writing a history book on your own life, the pandemic would be a chapter for sure, you know? Um, so like it obviously has personal meaning for people. But I take that, or I take like the story of giving birth or the story of anything, and think about all the parts of it that aren't inherently meaningful, that sort of don't matter. And like that's the real material. So you kind of, you know, it's like things that you don't take photographs of. You take photographs at a birthday party, but you don't like at a mid-morning snack, you know.
Yeah.
Trying to sort of
Yeah.
use things that aren't identity producing, you know, that kind of just are just like life, and it doesn't really matter if it's mine or yours on this day or that day, you know.
Like dusting off the top of a ceiling fan, like in your book,
Right.
it's just that what is it about that? I just think about that. I actually think about that, just those dumb little things we do. There's so much in them, even though they're just dumb little things.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like all the cleaning, all the toilets you've ever cleaned, all the whatever, the way, if you wear gloves, like the way latex gloves feel on your hands, the way the toilet cleaner like comes out of the container, you know, whatever, like how viscous it is if you buy the name brand versus like the generic, you know, like we're aware of all these things, you know, and we don't have a lot of times you don't have any specific memory of cleaning any particular toilet, you know, like you don't think it has anything to do with you. And it has something to do with all of us because we've all done it. We've all had this like shared experience. And like nobody's going to say like, how do you clean a toilet? Because I think if we examine how you clean a toilet, we will understand you.
Wow.
And I think like both things could be true. Like on one hand, it's absurd and meaningless, you know, like it's irrelevant. But on the other hand, like you kind of could use that premise of creating meaning and apply it to anywhere. Like I probably would understand you more now if I understood your whole cleaning procedure, you know, it probably
Yeah.
would be just as revealing as the way you go about handling money or anything else, you know, or your sex life. I mean, these things are so typically defining, you know, what was your relationship with your parents or your siblings? What was your relationship like as a child growing up, you know? And I just like, I think it's really refreshing to look at things that haven't been so defined, that aren't so heavy, you know? And a lot of times, like, it's an easier route to humor, you know, because it's
Right.
not, we don't put seriousness on it, you know? Like, I'm not, um, like it that's another problem with art is sort of like the heavy seriousness that we approach these things. I mean, even like this Zoom meeting right now that we're having. Um, it's got this structure and this formality, you know, that honestly like makes me nervous, you know, like,
Oh, totally.
oh, getting ready for this thing. I've got an event, you know, and it's like, okay, I get to
And
talk
it's
to
just
Rob.
me. It's just
I
it's
know
just
it's like
Rob.
I
Yeah.
love you. I like
Yeah.
would do
Yeah.
anything to have a conversation with you, but it's like this is being recorded. It's for something, you know, like it's got this formality, and it's harder to just like accept that things go wrong
Yeah.
or to laugh at things or whatever. I'm just like my comics are for myself. That's where the catharsis is. I'm trying to look at life and not take it too seriously and see like my own failures and all the things that just like constantly go wrong as being okay. And it helps me like accept those things to draw them.
Yeah.
So there, I just answer your question. Like I like to say like, no, and then yes.
Well, I can tell you too right now, like, yes, there's this slight awkwardness because we're not talking just to each other. We know people are going to be watching us and looking at us talking. And I'm just thinking like how good my bare feet feel on the carpet.
Mm,
Like it just like feels really nice.
I have
Yeah. So
socks on.
just like a little take off your socks and put them on the carpet. It feels great. That's my advice. The other thing I thought I'd ask you about, I had this really cool conversation on my Patreon with a couple of people or with somebody else's Patreon or whatever. And she was talking about how, the people talking about art as this great spiritual thing and how it's like, oh, it feeds my soul and yada, yada. Well, there's this one artist that this woman was talking about. And she said that for her, art is just something to do.
Mm,
It's just like it fills up those days. It fills up the empty, and it's fun. And I thought I kind of identified with that. Not that it has to be an either or thing at all.
right.
And then if another cartoonist chimed in and said for him, comics, I think I thought of this while you were talking, that for him, comics also poses problem solving. Like, how am I going to present this scene? How am I going to, direct it? I mean, because I really think of it as the almost like being a theater director, a movie director, like you're setting up a scene and
Mhm.
what do you include and what perspective are you overhead, are you underhead, are the characters being seen dead on, etc. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. It is like you are using that problem solving part of your brain all the time. And I think that that feels fantastic. I think it's really like nice to think about those things. And I think that's what makes art exciting, is that we all solve these problems. I mean, it's problems we set up for ourselves,
Yeah.
but we all solve them in different ways, and I think like, yeah, art is often just something to do, but I think it just goes into like the way you live and the way you define spirituality and the way, um, I don't know. Um, yeah, I'm gonna get I could easily talk for 45 minutes about
Yeah.
that. I'm gonna nip it in the bud.
Okay. But yeah, like I find like that problem solving actually takes me out of my real problems,
Yes.
like I can be like, I'm really nervous about this upcoming thing or whatever. And then, but it's like, if I'm really in the zone and I really get into the comic, then it just doesn't seem to matter as much like that. Cause like, wow, I got that panel figured out, as I
Yeah,
move.
that is a really important thing to notice. If you're able to make that shift, it does take you out of your real life problems, solving problems on the page. I've noticed even like if I'm not able to like reach that level of making work, I'm just totally overwhelmed. If I do something like shopping for a shirt or like something more practical is even easier because the decisions are easier, if it's like for paper towels or something. Um, and you're just like deciding what to buy at the grocery
Yeah.
store.
Yeah.
That also you're problem solving in like a really gentle, easier way that can get you out of that total overwhelm,
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, like um, the fake problems of comics really help us cope with the real world problems, and there
Right.
are just so many. But those fake problems of comics can really seem they are of dire importance to me. Like when I'm
Yeah.
working on them, like yeah, and it is just yeah. I wanted to ask you also, do you plot out a page or do you not? This is a processy question, and I
Yeah.
always ask everybody this because I'm obsessed with this. Like,
Yeah, I have just a binder, and I do just a very loose thumbnail sketch. So the basic composition is all plotted out where the word balloons are going to go and the people and stuff, and the body positions. So I do that just on like scrap paper, and I always have like 20 pages sitting there that I could do. um and then like the ones I don't get around to doing, if I keep writing more pages and not doing one, then it's like, oh, you know what, this one probably I could just take it out. It's that my editing process doesn't happen necessarily like all at once or something. It's just like I try to let as many things happen like with intuition as possible. So I don't write the whole book, it's always just a few, another batch of pages in the future. And then there's always this possibility that, anything could happen. I don't know like what the big themes are going to be. I don't know which events I'm going to cover.
Yeah. I remember I think it was Luke Howard who was telling me that he worked like that too. And it was really a relief because I thought most people plotted out everything and thumbnailed everything really to the nth degree. And I find that just like kills my spirit. I can't do it. So, but
Yeah.
it's hard doing it in the moment too. It takes longer,
Yeah. I think like anything that gives you energy in the process is probably the way to go. Like for some,
Good advice, cartoonists, write that down. Seriously.
yeah. I mean, for some people, like there are obvious advantages to, having like the whole thing and working general to specific. I mean that, but if you feel like I don't know, like part of the thing that gives me energy is the potential of surprise. And this like can be a bad thing. Like when I was sewing clothes, it was always like, I got to try these 20 patterns. I can't wait to see what this shirt looks like, instead of like actually solving the problem of the last one, so that 3 times and like really nail it. It was always like, I couldn't wait to get just to find out what it was going to look like. And drawing is the same way. Like if you don't really know what's going to happen, like it's very exciting. You can sit there and sit there and sit there because it's like, there's this suspense. But once like if you write out a whole book, then it's like, I know my style. I solved all the major problems. Now I know, like, even if like it's gonna be great, for based on your last work or something, it's very, very hard to just keep going.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, and all others, Keiler Roberts.
Thank you. Okay, so here's an excerpt from my begging chart. I'm annoyed by imaginary friends. Logically, I think they're fine. I'm in favor of a free plaything that doesn't make a mess. Stop! Marigold's sitting there. A nice adult would play along. Pardon me. But I see it as an inconvenience, even a burden. You can tell your little friend to get out of my chair. It seems to be a way for a child to gain power. They can see and hear something I can't. It's not nice to tell secrets. For a brief time, I had an imaginary friend of my own, Robin, of Batman and Robin. He didn't keep me company, though. He was just a scapegoat. Can you please be more careful? It was Robin. Imaginary friends are hard to share. Hi, Marigold. What can I get you to eat? Mom, she's over there. It's fine to have imaginary friends. Just do it when you're alone, away from me. Mom, you should have one too. What kind of animal do you want? I don't want one. Fine, mine's a bat. Great, what's their name? Jesus. Oh no, Mommy, 911. Oh, Mommy, Binkledings is getting soaked. We're going to have to call in for a backup. Good night, Zia. I'm leaving for a meeting now and I won't be home until you're in bed. How late? It ends at 9. That's past your bedtime. I know, I don't want to be up so late. Do you have to go? No, but I'm hoping to learn something important. Like what? How to control your behavior? Did you do your math homework yet? No. I'll do it here. Are you allowed to use pen? I think so. Rub, rub. Will you rub my back? Zia, I am already rubbing your back. Zia, your room needs to be cleaned up. I guess you can take Gap apart. Gap? That's his name. Oh. What on earth is this stuffed with? There are things from every room in the house in here. This is worse than unpacking from a trip. Is the sugar affecting Zia? Yes. Willow woke up with a furrowed brow after we made gingerbread houses. Her house was so sparsely decorated, she's eaten almost all of the candy. We're not even doing gingerbread houses this year. There are treats for St. Nick, school, birthday parties, and I stupidly bought peppermint ice cream because it's seasonal. I let her eat a cone in the car on the way to the dentist. You're lying. No, I'm not. Keiler, each part of that sentence is unbelievable on its own. You don't let kids eat ice cream in the car and not on the way to the dentist. I told you I was having a transition year. This is my new life. Hey, are you out walking? Not today. I'm lying in my basement. Scott and Zia are home, and this is the most private room. I just want you to know that I can hear everything you say from the dining room. Wow, that was nice of him to warn you. 45 minutes later. Mom, I can hear everything you say through the vent in my room. I guess this is the least private room in the house. Is this your first mammogram? Yes. Have you had any problems with your breasts? No. Have you had a needle biopsy or surgery? Yes. Yes, you have? You mean on my breasts? Yes, of course. Oh, then no. Do you have children? No. I mean, yes. Is there any chance you're pregnant? No. Are you having your period or are you close to it? I'm a few days overdue. But you're completely sure you aren't pregnant. I'm positive. She'll never believe me now. A high school memory. Look at what they gave us for crew. This is the biggest duffel bag I've ever seen. If I filled it up, I wouldn't be able to lift it. I bet you would fit in there. No, Tucker, haha. Get him away so I can get out. Ah! Well, I'm finally done with my schoolwork for the day. You're finally done? You started it less than an hour ago. Oh, Mom, you're not following directions. It says keep out of the reach of children and pets. Look down to there's blood on the sheets. Weird. I don't know how that happened. It's obviously from your leg. No, it's not. How would it have gotten way down there? It's in the exact pattern and shape as your scabs. Don't deny it, not even in a jokey way. Happy Mother's Day, Mommy. Thanks. Don't worry, Mama. You're not ruining me. I made you a smoothie. Be very careful. I'll be as careful as I can be. And this is the actual begging chart that Zia made on her own to record very scientifically whether she would get her way more often if she begged. She only kept it up for one day. And a painting.